Welcome, everyone. One of the best ways to prepare for the IELTS speaking test is to see it in action. That's exactly what we're doing today with this complete mock test from Spinta. As you listen, think about what the candidate does well and where they could improve. Afterwards, we'll compare notes with a full performance breakdown. Let's begin.
Good morning. My name is John. Can you tell me your full name, please?
Good morning. My name is Maya Patel. You can call me Maya. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Where are you from?
I am from a city called Ahmedabad, which is in western India. It is not very large compared to Mumbai, but it has strong cultural traditions, a lot of food markets and textile industries. I grew up there, and my parents still live in the same neighborhood, so I visit when I can.
Right. Now we will start with part 1. First, let's talk about home and family. Do you live with your family or alone?
At the moment, I live in a small flat in the city with one roommate from university. My parents live in Ahmedabad, and they come to visit sometimes. To be honest, I prefer living away from home now, because it gives me independence and I can focus on work and study. But I miss my mother's cooking a lot. That is the thing I miss the most.
How often do you see your family?
I try to go back every 2 or 3 months, depending on my work schedule. We also video call at least once a week, usually in the evenings when everyone is free. When there is a festival or wedding, I go back without thinking. Those family gatherings are important for us.
What do you enjoy doing with your family when you visit?
Mainly we cook and eat together, and sometimes we go to the old part of the city, where there are markets and temples. I like helping my mother with recipes, and sometimes we watch films together. It is simple things, but they are very comforting, and remind me of childhood.
Okay, now, let's talk about work and study. Are you working or studying at the moment?
I am working full-time as a project coordinator for a small tech company, and I am also doing part-time postgraduate study in management. It is a busy schedule, but the study helps me understand the theory, and the job gives me practical experience, so it works well together.
How long have you been doing this job?
I have been in this role for almost 3 years now. I started as an assistant and gradually moved into coordination, and now I manage a small team. The responsibilities increased slowly, and it was a good learning curve, especially in communication and planning.
What do you enjoy most about your work?
What I enjoy most is solving problems and seeing a project from start to finish. I like when the team works well and we deliver something on time. There is satisfaction in organizing people and resources to meet a deadline. Also, I meet clients, and that interaction is interesting because it challenges me to be clear and persuasive.
Can you give an example of a challenging project you handled?
Yes, last year we had a product launch that had many delays due to supply issues. I coordinated between the suppliers, designers, and marketing teams to adjust timelines and to communicate expectations to stakeholders. It was stressful at times. I had to work long hours, but in the end the launch was successful, and we learned a lot about contingency planning.
I see. Now let's talk about hobbies. What do you like to do in your free time?
I like reading and cooking. Reading helps me relax after a busy week, and I usually read non-fiction about psychology and productivity, sometimes novels too. Cooking is a creative outlet. I try new recipes from different cuisines, and I often invite friends, so we can try dishes together.
How long have you been interested in cooking?
Since I was a child, actually. My grandmother used to teach me little things, and I started experimenting in my teens. It became more serious during university when I had limited money and had to cook for myself. That forced me to learn basic techniques, and now I enjoy more elaborate dishes.
What do you enjoy most about reading?
I enjoy the new perspectives and ideas. Reading non-fiction often gives me tools I can apply to work and life, like better habits or decision-making strategies. Novels, on the other hand, help me empathize and relax. I find that switching between both keeps my mind active.
Okay. Tell me about your daily routine. What is a typical weekday like for you?
I usually wake up around 6:30, exercise for 30 minutes, then prepare breakfast. I start work at 9 and have meetings in the morning and afternoons. I try to reserve midday for focused tasks. After work I study for 1.5 hours on most evenings, then I cook dinner, and read a little before bed. On weekends I relax more and meet friends.
How has your routine changed over time?
When I was younger I used to stay up late, and sleep late. But work and study forced me to be more disciplined. Also during the pandemic my routine changed because everything was remote, and I became conscious about separating work and personal time. I try to keep weekends free from work as much as possible now.
Right, finally in part 1 let's talk about future plans. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years I hope to be in a senior project management role, possibly leading larger teams and working on international projects. I would also like to complete my postgraduate degree, and maybe do some short courses in leadership. If possible, I would like to spend a year working abroad to get broader experience and exposure to different business cultures.
What steps are you taking now to reach that goal?
I am taking specific steps like focusing on communication and negotiation skills at work, volunteering for projects that involve coordination with international partners, and studying for additional certifications in project management. I feel these will help me be ready when opportunities come.
Okay, thank you. Now we will move on to part 2. I will give you a topic and I would like you to talk about it for 2 to 3 minutes. You have 1 minute to prepare. Here is your topic. Describe a memorable trip you took. You should say where you went, what you did, why it was memorable, and explain what you learned from the trip. You have 1 minute to prepare.
Thank you. Right, I will talk about a trip I took to the mountains with 2 close friends about 2 years ago. We went to a small hill station called Kodaikanal, which is in southern India. We spent 5 days there and did a lot of walking and exploring. The place was green and misty, with lakes and pine forests. One day we rented bicycles and cycled around the lake early in the morning. The air was fresh and there was a soft light through the trees which made everything look calm and almost like a painting. Another day we hiked up to a viewpoint and watched the sunrise. It was an early start and the path was steep, but the view at the top was very rewarding. We also tried local food and bought small handicrafts from the market. The trip was memorable because it was the first time in a long while that I felt truly disconnected from work and screens. There were no emails, no deadlines, just conversations and walks. I remember one evening when we sat on a hill and talked about our plans, fears and hopes, and I felt a stronger bond with my friends. I learned how important it is to slow down sometimes and to spend uninterrupted time with people I care about. I also learned practical things like planning for weather changes, and the value of packing light, because one of our backpacks was too heavy and slowed us down. The experience reminded me that short trips can be very restorative, and can improve relationships. Is that enough detail?
Right, could you tell me more about the part where you felt disconnected from work?
Yes. Before the trip I was checking messages during breaks, and on the trip I deliberately turned off notifications and told colleagues I would be offline. At first I felt anxious, like I was missing something, but after a day I noticed my mind was clearer, I slept better and conversations were deeper. It made me realize I had been fragmenting attention too much, and now I try to schedule short digital breaks, sometimes to refresh.
Thank you. Now, part 3. We will discuss travel and leisure in more detail. Why do you think people like to travel?
People travel for many reasons. For some, it is relaxation and escape from daily routines. For others, it is curiosity about different cultures and landscapes. Travel can also be about self-development, because when you are in a new environment, you must adapt, and that builds confidence. There is social value too. People travel to celebrate events, to visit family, or to create memories with friends. Personally, I think the mix of novelty and shared experiences makes travel attractive.
How has tourism changed in your country in recent years?
Tourism has grown a lot and become more diverse. There is more domestic tourism now, and infrastructure has improved with more budget transport and accommodation options. Social media also changed things. People choose places based on photos, which sometimes creates overcrowding in popular spots. There is more awareness about sustainable tourism, but the practice is inconsistent. Some areas handle growth well while others struggle with waste and pressure on local resources.
Do you think travel makes people more open-minded?
Generally, yes. Travel exposes people to different ways of living and thinking, and that can reduce prejudices. When you meet people with different backgrounds and see their daily life, it humanizes them and makes stereotypes less rigid. However, it depends on how one travels. If someone only stays in tourist bubbles and follows familiar routines, they might not gain much perspective.
Interesting. What are the downsides of increased tourism?
There are environmental and social downsides. Increased tourism can damage fragile ecosystems, increase pollution, and raise costs for local residents. There is also cultural commodification, where traditions are packaged for visitors, losing their original meaning. Economically, some communities benefit, but sometimes profits go to outside companies rather than local people. Managing tourism responsibly is a complex challenge.
How can governments encourage sustainable tourism?
Governments can implement regulations like visitor limits in sensitive areas, invest in sustainable infrastructure, such as waste management and public transport, and support local businesses through training and incentives. Education campaigns for tourists about responsible behavior are useful too. Collaboration with local communities to ensure benefits are fairly distributed is important, and sometimes small policy changes like taxes that support conservation can help.
Do you think tourists should learn local customs before visiting?
Yes, I think it is respectful to learn basic customs and language phrases. Small efforts like learning how to greet people or understanding dress codes can prevent misunderstandings and show appreciation for the host culture. It also enriches the travel experience because locals respond more warmly when they see visitors have made an effort.
What impact does technology have on the way people travel?
Technology has transformed travel. Booking and planning are easier. Navigation and translation apps reduce anxiety, and social platforms influence choices. There is a convenience advantage, but also a risk that travel becomes too curated and less spontaneous. Technology can support sustainable choices too, for example apps that show low-emission transport options, or availability of eco-friendly accommodations.
If someone cannot afford to travel internationally, how can they still benefit from travel experiences?
Local travel is a good option. Exploring nearby towns, nature walks, cultural festivals and museums can provide many of the same benefits of broader travel, such as fresh perspectives and relaxation. Volunteering locally, or attending events that bring different communities together, can also broaden horizons without high costs.
Do you think travel will change in the future?
I think travel will become more conscious. People will increasingly seek sustainable and meaningful experiences rather than ticking off tourist sites. Technology will continue to shape choices, and climate concerns may change popular destinations or the timing of trips. I also hope that more communities will be empowered to manage tourism in ways that preserve culture and environment.
Right. Finally, do you prefer traveling alone or with others, and why?
I prefer traveling with a small group of friends or family, because shared experiences create memories and practicalities like safety and logistics are easier. However, I enjoy occasional solo trips for introspection and flexibility. Each style has its advantages, and I choose based on purpose. For cultural immersion, I might go solo. For relaxation, I prefer company.
Thank you. That is the end of the speaking test. Do you have any final questions?
No, thank you. I enjoyed talking about these topics.
The candidate demonstrated Band 7 level performance. Notable grammatical errors included saying, "If I would have known, I would went there when it should be. If I had known, I would have gone," and saying, I have been an avid reader since I was a child, when it should be, I have been an avid reader since I was a child. A minor preposition error occurred when she said enjoy to travel instead of enjoy traveling or enjoy traveling to, and on a couple of occasions, she used slightly incorrect verb forms, such as, I have been living here since 5 years, instead of, I have lived here for 5 years. These errors were infrequent and mainly appeared in more complex structures. They did not prevent understanding. Error frequency and impact. The errors occurred occasionally across the test, mostly in complex sentences and hypothetical statements, and while noticeable, they did not impede the overall communication or clarity. The listener could easily follow the meaning, and the responses were coherent. Fluency assessment. Fluency was generally strong, with a natural flow and minimal hesitation. There were brief self-corrections, such as, sorry, and small hesitations to think of a precise word, but overall speech was smooth and organized. Vocabulary evaluation. The vocabulary range was wide and appropriate for most topics, with good use of terms like contingency planning, sustainable tourism, cultural commodification, and restorative. There were a few imprecise choices, such as saying very big issue instead of significant issue, but generally word choice was effective and expressive. Grammatical analysis. Strengths included accurate use of simple tenses and complex sentence formation in most responses, clear sequencing of ideas, and good use of connectors. Weaknesses were occasional errors in conditional and perfect structures, and some missing articles or prepositions in brief moments. Band score justification. This performance matches Band 7 because the candidate spoke at length with clear organization, used a wide range of vocabulary, and showed control of complex grammar most of the time. The few errors were limited and did not obscure meaning. What prevented a higher score? To reach Band 8, the candidate would need more consistent accuracy, with complex structures, fewer slips in conditionals and perfect tenses, and slightly more precision in word choice and less familiar topics. Comparative analysis. To move to the next band, she should focus on practicing conditional and perfect forms until they become automatic, reduce small article and preposition errors, and aim for even more lexical precision when discussing less common topics. Thank you for practicing with this IELTS speaking mock test. Visit Spinta for more comprehensive mock tests and personalized feedback to boost your IELTS score.